Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic panel of guests. So we all talk about comics and geekery. But before we get to them, currently on Kickstarter, go check out the Oswald Chronicles, available on Kickstarter. So without further ado, let me bring on the guys. Mr. JD Rosario, please introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name is JD Rosario. Been publishing comic books under the imprint Unstoppable Comics since 2008, and trying to keep afloat wherever we can.
Oh, you froze? Oh, I thought you froze. Just keep talking. I'm working here. What's wrong with you, Jay? Come on. I thought you were a pro.
I'm usually a mouthful here. I didn't want to take up from anybody else's time coming in on the show.
You were a pro. Do you actually think I pay attention? Jesus. Anyway.
You need a producer on this, man. You really need a producer here, bro.
Mr. Marcus H. Roberts, please bring some professionalism here, please.
I'm gonna try, man, but I thought he was frozen too. It was like, but I'm Marcus Roberts. I'm the COO of Second Sight Publishing. We actually had just started our publishing company in May of last year, so we hadn't hit a year yet. Nice. But we started publishing books under Second Sight Studios through AP and Caliber Comics, and we just kind of took off on our own after that. We're made up of a bunch of independent comic book creators: Bradley Golden, Larry Spike Gerald, and Peter Brewer. So yeah, we're trying to do our thing.
Nice,
awesome. Very good.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Look.
Just kidding.
What? I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
How's it going, guys? My name is Evan K. Posios. I'm the writer and co-creator of the Weird War Tale Time Grunts, the supernatural gangster series Johnny Phantasm, and the horror thriller series coming to Second Sight Studios this fall called Silence.
Nice.
Hey,
Mr. Randy.
I'm not frozen.
Nope.
Just frozen in time. Hey, everybody. I'm Randy Zimmerman. I have been involved in self-publishing, alternative, and independent comics since maybe before most of you were born. Arrow Comics back in 1985.
No, 75.
So Arrow Comics, 35, no, 85. Arrow Comics, and now I'm bringing Arrow Comics back as Arrow Comics 4.0. We've got a slate of books that we're in the process of working on. When I'm not busy doing commercial work, really for a while there, my specialty was sequential art for advertising and educational purposes because it paid better than the mainstream, and working on my own independent stuff. So yeah, I've done just about everything in this industry that you can imagine, from running my own company to retailing for a decade to doing a little distributing, created my own newspaper, comics paper that I circulated around my county. I live in the Flint, Michigan area. It was called Flint Comics for about 10 years, ran through 100 issues, ran through 10,000 copies per issue, had little red boxes set up all around the county. You can just come up, take free paper once a month. And it was a lot of fun for a while, but once the water crisis hit, it was unsustainable. And after my savings was tapped enough, and after some friendly poking from the wife, it was time to stop. So I stopped, and now I got back involved with the direct market, and now here I am. So and here we are. And I'm also part of the Indie Volt Radio Network. Varian would have kicked my ass if I hadn't said
that. All right.
Mr. Jan DeSantis.
Actually, Evan stole my intro. I was totally going to pretend to freeze. Oh, nice timing. So I'm Jan DeSantis, because my cat Sorella, who of course likes to get
on the show. Freezing anyway.
Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. Yeah. So I'm a writer, artist. I don't know if you can hear the cat scratching along. This is what she
Cat
loves to
appreciator.
do.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's all
Yes.
good.
I'm the creator of Chattana. All right. It's a dark fantasy, Indian, South Asian book. All right. Got new issues coming out this year. 5 overall. Wow, she's not usually this affectionate during my classes. I teach as well. She does this. So anyway, yeah, great intro. I'm also the owner and publisher over at Darkfire Press, and we have Chattana as well. I would love a redo. I'd like to take my time back at this cat here. But yeah, no, let's get into it. Yeah.
Good work. You look great. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I got to say, JM probably has the cleanest camera out of anybody right now. That cat is
Dust free.
Either really clean or really dirty.
It's the cat's opinion. Just go on.
You got the sharpest image going on there, brother.
Look, and I've never seen a cat wag his tail that much. I mean, like, it must have been Dusty. He was doing you a favor.
Yep.
Yeah. No, she's a little bit like a dog. I can call her, she'll come, like most of the time. And yeah, she's but I teach as well, so I do remote classes, and every time I get on with a class, she's up here, the tail's going in front of the camera, like just she hears voices and then she's got to run over.
Yep.
Nice.
And investigate.
He's standing there all gleefully like, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yep.
That's awesome.
All right. So, guys, let's get down to business. I have some questions, and like I said, I got one from Evan. I'm going to pose out to you guys in a minute. But so it's good. I have 1, 2, 3. Well, we're all self-publishers, but I actually have 3 publishers on here, which is cool. So this is a question I myself have.
You got 4, 5 counting yourself, right? JM publishes, right? He says he's
self-publishes.
Yeah.
So we're all here self-published.
Well, I publish other people too, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But
I think but I'm talking about people who publish other people. Like I'm a self-publisher, Jay's a self-publisher, Evan's a self-publisher, but Marcus, you and JM. Oh, who did we lose?
We lost Jay.
We lost Jay. This guy.
It's
Just another act. Is he coming back in?
He'll come back in. Yeah, he probably who knows.
It's
He's
that
in
Jersey
Brooklyn.
connection. Yeah.
No, he's in Brooklyn. He probably
Brooklyn.
But so here's the question. Okay, I'll get back to Mr. Page. Here's a question. How do you guys price your covers? Your cover price? How do you choose and pick your cover price? So we'll start with Mr. Marcus.
All right. Well, we're publishing our books through Diamond, and in conjunction with them, they suggested a price that they felt would be comfortable in the market. Yeah, Randy. Randy and I've done a show together before, so they suggested a price that they felt would be comfortable in the market, and we agreed with it. So we're going by their price.
Oh, okay. What was the price they suggested?
For some books, the price was $3.99, which is about a standard price for a mainstream book, around $3.99. Right. And then for other books, there was the bigger the book, the more the price, $6.99, $9.99, that type of thing, depending on the number of pages of the book. But on average, for the 24-page book, the suggested retail price was $3.99, which isn't really too far from what the average creator would charge at a con. The guys that not trying to get rich in one day. The average book is $5, so we're talking a $1.01 difference that hopefully we would be able to make up just through increasing the amount of sales of that book. Because we publish Evan. We're looking forward to publishing Evan and that book Silence.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited.
Cool.
You guys have, done quite a bit for all the books you have in previews right now in terms of promotion, getting the word out, getting interviews done. Extremely impressed with Second Sight's efforts.
Well, thank you. We're trying. And that just goes back to being independent comic book creators. Because as independent, we know what the independents want. We know what those books need because we are the people that we're representing. And
you know the hustle.
Oh yeah, it's like, how would I do it for myself? Well, this is how I would do it for myself if this was my book, and that's what we do.
All right, cool. Now, Evan, what do you do to choose like your price covers when you're doing your own stuff, like other than what you're doing with Marcus?
Gotcha. I mean, in terms of shows, that $5 price point for, a single issue or even an ash can seems to work. But in terms of the crowdfunding stuff we've done with Johnny, we're able to embellish that a little bit by providing certain perks that you otherwise wouldn't get if you went to your typical comic book shop or maybe even a convention.
All right, cool. Mr. JM?
Sorry, I was making sure the cat scratching around down here wasn't making too much noise. So the question was, as far as like, how do I price my comics?
Right. Like how do you figure out your pricing on your books?
Well, there's two ways I do it. I mean, to a certain extent, of course, I take in the market, but I pretty much figure that I'm not going to be able to get them as low as, say, Marvel or DC or Image or Dark Horse or anybody. So a lot of it does have to do with the production costs. I kind of do a little bit of both. I want to make sure whether it's me or one of the other creators can still make a little bit of money from it. Darkfire Press takes a small cut. I try to make sure there's enough of a profit without the price going so high that the consumer is just going to say there's no way I'm doing that.
Right.
So, but I think, independent creators have a little bit of leeway. It's almost weird to think of it that way because other industries, when you're an independent or you're a smaller publisher, people expect the price to be lower. But I feel like in publishing, you can get away with, not like $5 more, but $1 or $2 difference won't turn somebody off.
True. Randy, what do you do?
Well, I've been working on a paper for free for 10 years. So really, you just go through and you price it out the way the market will bear it. You have to go out and look at what everybody else is doing and see what your per unit cost is. I'm going to be working, I figure, on a pretty small print run as far as books go. If I'm not print on demanding, then I'm looking at a 32 full color book plus cover coming in right about $4.99.
Okay.
But it's a little higher than the standard, but hopefully we're going to have it's going to be like I said, a smaller print run, so we have a lower overhead or a higher overhead that we have to be able to cover. So
right. Well, $4.99 at this point is pretty much average. So.
Well, I figure I'm coming out by the end of the year, in the second half of the year. Probably by that time, it will be the industry standard anyway, because everybody seems to jack up about $1 a year anyway. So.
Yeah, and then the page count, that really plays a big difference. And you're talking 32 pages, so why wouldn't you charge at least $5 for it?
Yeah, well, to me that's a good size comic.
Yeah,
it gives the reader enough to really sink their teeth into the characters or a story, and
because I have seen books offered for or at $10 a book, and we're talking 20 pages.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I want to support. I want to support, but why buy 20 pages at $10 when there's guys that's selling 24, 28 page books at $3 and $4?
Right.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Rosario, how do you go about it?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question. I was still trying to find
No,
a new way to
I'm
sign
not
in.
repeating a damn thing. You should have been paying attention.
I'm
No.
not making fun of anybody's internet connection tonight at all. Okay.
No, how do you price out your books? So when you're figuring out when you first get your title, whether it be a trade paperback or a comic book, how do you figure out the pricing on that?
All right. Well, when I originally started, the average for indie books was about $2.99, $3 a book, right? But margins weren't there. You know what I mean? You couldn't really turn around and make a profit at cons and stuff like that. So the last few years we went up, and we're doing $5 for a single issue. It is a 24-page book. You figured the average book used to be 32 pages, 10 ads. So around there, it's 24 pages, full story, in-house ad on back cover, in-house ad, interior back cover. And when I do the graphic novels, so the trades are pretty much, they're 4-issue trades, $20 for the trade, and we throw in, a couple extra pages to boost the count up to about 100 books. Going with Marcus said, the $10 stuff. I see the guys and I see them hustling, but it's really hard to support a $10 book or even $20 books, which people do, and I don't know how they're making sales, at least at cons. I can't see that. I understand. You're trying to recoup your expenses. You're paying for your freelance team and stuff like that. But if you're doing things the right way, a $4.99, a $5 book, and if you're doing offset printing, you got some really nice margins where you can turn a couple bucks back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So before we move on, I have a couple of questions from the.
You didn't answer the question yet.
What? Damn it! I've already answered this question on the shows. Go look at those. No. What I do is basically like everybody else. I figure out my core costs, and once I know my core costs, that's how I know how to schedule my cover price. So I'm always like, I know if I'm doing like a bulk print, and then also I base it on what's in the industry, So sometimes I have a hankering to do a $1 book, and what I'll do is I'll print them digest size, and I know those will only cost me like 40 or 50 cents, and at shows I sell them for $1, and those are like lead-ins that I sometimes do at a show, and I'll do those, and I'll have something like, I'll give you a money back guarantee on the $1 book, if you don't like it, just bring it back, and then usually what they'll do is they'll buy the book, read it, come back, and then they'll buy more. So that's how I work that, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But my books are right now, they're going for on the cover $4.95, $5.95, depending on the thickness of the book. Because sometimes I have 48-page books; those might go for $5.95. I have some in color, and then they're also 48 pages, and they'll usually go for like $6.95. So it just depends on the book and what I'm doing in it. But so that's that one for you, Randy. Thank you for taking those plays. So I got a couple of questions from Paige Alfred, and this question: what movie you love that would be similar to your comic? And he added this to it, Evan.
Okay, on the spot. If we're talking silence, since we've got the Second Sight CEO in here, I would say that Silence is probably one of the old Tales of the Unexpected comics from the 70s from DC, mixed in with a little Twilight Zone. So definitely a horror, suspense, surprise ending kind of feel to it.
All right, cool. Let's move it to Mr. Rosario.
Yeah. Wow. I got 5 different titles, so I don't want to take up too much time from everybody over here.
Well, pick the one that you have a campaign going on for.
Well, we'll Shield of the Interceptor. It's definitely runs along the lines of a Captain America style property. I don't know if I could say full movie, but it runs along those lines. Captain America he's a white guy in Shield of the Interceptor. He's a man of color. Cap is based here in the States. Shield of the Interceptor based in the UK. They're both shield slingers, but one's Cap's shield's origin is based in science,
And my shield's origin is based on in mythology, Arthurian mythology. Supposed to be paired with the sword Excalibur, and so it definitely has influences for my love of that style of book, or not movie though.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Mr. DeSantis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking about the answer to this while you were. I was originally going to say something like, I mean, the closest I could think were something like Lord of the Rings or The Witcher. The Lord of the Rings more for the background, like, the world, but The Witcher more for like the character. Conan would also work. But, I'm completely forgetting. Oh, my God, here comes the cat again.
That was a great movie. Oh, my God, here comes the cat again.
that was that the one in 3D?
No, that was the cat that came from outer space.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Funny. I don't want to lose my internet service again.
No, but I actually I've seen there is an Indian Bollywood film Bahubali, which is in two parts.
Yes.
And that's actually a fantasy story. It doesn't take place in any historical setting, although a little bit. I guess that would be the most representative in a way of my book. But it's a female heroine, so it's like, I don't know, like what I would put up there, not alien. I wouldn't say that because it's more fantasy than sci-fi. Yeah, it's kind of a hard question to answer. I think, but yeah.
All right, Randy, pick your favorite.
I got to compare movies, or what's my favorite movie? I could tell you a list of favorite movies, but
well, what's one that's closest to, I guess, a project you're working on?
The projects I'm working on now, I've got one book that's really my answer to the Golden Age Superman. It's not really based off of a movie. It's what if that happened today, and what would it really be like if you could be a super enhanced individual. Somebody develops these powers, and what it would be like having to deal in real life. Well, not really real life, but pretty close to real life. I'm working on Herobot Zero, which is kind of a favorite of mine. That's a 3-foot tall giant robot that fights large monsters. And that heralds back to all of those great old Godzilla movies that you used to see of the big crazy monster in the foam suit. It's really a big tribute to a lot of that. Ultraman. Yeah. The great old anime robot Shogun Warriors type thing. Only the guy's 3 foot tall with a really bad attitude. Doesn't want to do anything after hours unless he gets paid time and a half. That kind of thing. I've got some superhero stuff in the works. The other product that's really underway is a fantasy book. That's a very lighthearted fantasy that really heralds back, and here's a deep cut, to like Sword and the Sorcerer or Hawk the Slayer, the ridiculous, super lighthearted fantasy stories that you used to see on TV or at the movie, like Krull, where the guy who's got the big weapon, you sit there and you go, that's not practical at all. What the hell's he got that for? That kind of just really brain check fantasy lightheartedness.
Right.
So I'm really Gru's more of a clown type, stumbling type situation. Mine's more based in I can't really get into it without telling you, without giving a lot of it away. But I've got a fantasy elf character in there that I've drawn for years, away from this idea that's going to be in it. The main character is a cat, a female cat that gets involved. There's a female warrior centaur, and there is an older wizard guy that's kind of a cross between, I'd say, like Gandalf and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Cool.
That and all of these people end up running across a big set of bad guys, and it ends up. I'm not going to give any more away. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And there's a lot of really hardcore fantasy, lighthearted fantasy aspects to it. It's the kind of book I haven't seen really anybody do lately, with not quite tongue-in-cheek humor, but with a level of fantasy to it that you really can't take seriously. And I will say this: it's a project I've had for decades. I stopped working on it when I saw Avatar.
Oh, okay.
And I said, but it's taken Cameron so long to do any more Avatars. I'm like, nah, I think I'm going to do this because it needs to be done. So
okay, because if you talk any more about it, you're going to have to tell us the whole damn story.
Yeah,
probably, but it's a long-winded tale. Yeah,
I just saw Hawk the Slayer on Amazon Prime about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you saying that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm thinking Hawk the Slayer, Sword and Sorcerer, where they had the three-pronged sword that was totally practical, and Krull that had the taloned little thing he threw. Just craziness. Stuff like that.
What was there was another movie with Richard Hatch, John Saxon, where they were in California, but then they time traveled into that sword and sorcery world. So it's a fish out of water story, but a fish out of water with us in the Dungeon and Dragon style environment. I love those types of movies.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what the title of that was.
Yeah, I don't know either.
To say at the end of my first issue, all of the main characters get chased off the end of the world.
Nice.
It'll be awesome.
Marcus, what would you? Because I don't know what titles you would be referring to, but how would you answer that question?
Well, the first thing I would say is right now, one of the books we're publishing, Blood, Skulls, and Chrome by Hanu Kasolo, that's being turned into a movie right now. It's being filmed. And it's like the Sons of Anarchy and the Mayan MCs. It's about a motorcycle gang. And I mean, if you're into that type of rugged story, that type of ruggedness, then you got the comic. But as I said, the comic is being turned into a movie right now as we speak.
Cool.
Same thing with Bradley Golden's Leave on the Light. Yeah, it is being had been shopped around to be turned into a movie. And before the COVID thing hit, there were some serious talks of moving forward with that into production.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I've been that close before. Yeah.
Yeah. There are a couple, those two things in particular. We're a horror company. We started out with horror. Now we publish superhero titles and fantasy titles, but we're a horror company. So I mean, it's not a book that we publish that isn't similar to a movie somewhere. Later on this year, we have These Damn Kids coming out, and imagine a bunch of teenage Jack Nicholsons in The Shining running around. So another book coming out, Sunny. Sunny, a direct comparison to Chucky. An evil doll that becomes animated and goes on a killing spree. It's like our comics themselves sell themselves as movies.
Cool.
So and that's why Silence is going to fit in so well, because once you all get a chance to see that, to read that story, to see that book, you're going to feel like you are reading a movie you have already seen. It's going to have that type of familiarity to it. And at the same time, it's something new. It's something fresh, so it's really going to pull you in.
Your check is in the mail, Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did I do what I said I was going to do?
Yes, you did.
There it is. There it is. All right. So let me answer the question for myself. I would say a cross between, I guess, Secret of Nim and something like Harry Potter for the Oswald Chronicles, with some Lovecraft mixed into it. So,
nice.
So yeah, eventually the horror does show up. All right. So Mr. Page gave us another question, and this was from Mr. Marcus. But everybody can answer this one. if you could make yourself a character in a comic book, would you be a hero or a villain? And what powers would you give yourself?
You know what? This actually is pretty easy for me. I would be neither hero or villain. I would be just one of those people that I'd be more Punisher than anything else. Because I came up with the original Punisher, like the wronged Vietnam vet without any type of other political aspirations, affiliations, any other type of agenda. He was done wrong, and he wanted to right this wrong, and he did. And that's that is the type of character I would be. And I don't need powers. I just need a gun that won't jam and some bullets that'll, go through Superman, and I'm good.
All right, cool.
Punisher all the way, man. I mean, and I'm not like actually advocating for vigilantism, but if I were a comic book character, I would be a character who would seek out justice on my own terms in my own way. And I always find that funny how people glorify the Avengers when the actual name of their team is one of people that's seeking out revenge. And we're the Avengers. You messed up, we're gonna avenge. So
the reactionary force.
Exactly. We're in as the defenders. They defend. It's in the name. It's in the name of the team. So, yeah, that's me.
Oh. So let's move it to Jay because we kind of keep some kind of cycle here. We'll get back to Evan.
Okay, so flight would be my power because I hate getting stuck in traffic. I really do. Traffic is my kryptonite. I rage at traffic. So flight would be my power. And I would be a villain, but not a good villain like Lex Luthor or anything like that. I'd be like one of those D villains, like Stilt Man or Kite Man or something like that, right? And
Tommy
when I'm flying, my passive aggressiveness, I won't kill anybody like Marcus wants to kill people. But if I'm flying, I'll definitely shit on your car or piss on your car from the air. Piss me off.
You're gonna be the mandrill or something like that.
No, he's too aggressive, man. Too aggressive. Let me go with Kite Man or Stilt Man or something like that. You know what I mean?
No,
Stilt Man is just an evil peeping Tom.
No, you're from New York. You'd have to be the pigeon.
The pigeon. I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
Pigeon shit. That's my name. Watch out for the PS, baby, coming at you.
There you go. JM, that's a hard one to follow, bro. Here you go.
You see what blueberry vodka does to me? Oh my god.
It's always a bad question to give to me because the hero villain superpower thing, because I have no interest in superheroes. So but I mean, like if I could give an answer that I at least would kind of fit into it. I mean, like, I like fantasy stuff. So, I mean, if you gave me some kind of dark or fire magic, maybe like half vampire thing going on, we'll be good. That's what you'll get from me. Hero or villain,
Doctor Strange.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess that could fit in. But as far as the hero or villain thing goes, I mean, I don't know. I like leaving that ambiguous, even with the stories I read, just to kind of like. I mean, that's going to be in the up to the reader, and where they fall. So, yeah.
All right, cool, Mr. Randy. How would you do this?
The stories I'm always drawn to are the one guy loner dude having to battle unbelievable odds against crazy kingdoms and things like that. Conan Kull, Killraven, Ulysses Bloodstone. I like a lot. Monarch Starstalker is another oddball character nobody knows that I love deeply. But if I had to be a character, if I had the choice of being any one character, I'd be the Omniverse's. That's a fanzine from way back in the 70s. Their version of Doctor Doom,
Okay.
because Doctor Doom was actually Kang and discovered time travel rather early on. He was Ramesses. He was the Immortus. He was the Scarlet Centurion. He was Doctor Doom, and he was Kang. That would be a character to be.
All right.
You know, who? What? Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom. Nice.
Either that or Doctor Zero
Doctor Doom.
from Archie Goodwin's line, which was pretty close to Doctor Doom. He was a magnanimous ruler of a country that had figured out ways of making power. The cool thing with Doctor Doom, and something that Marvel never really cashes in on, is Doom should have had his own series for the longest time, because he had the capabilities of being an incredible, well-written character as a neutral gray character. He was wacko at times because he had his own personal vendettas against people like Reed Richards. But at the same time, he was the ruler of a country, and his servants really looked up to him. He was a good king, but a nasty supervillain.
Right.
Fascinating character to me.
I actually look at Dr. Doom as being the opposite of what Black Panther is, and at the same time, them being the same. Like, the dichotomy of their character is they both are for their country or for their people, and in both cases, the people love and respect the character. At least the Black Panther was written like that for a long time, where he had the love and adoration of his people, much as Doom does. So they were, as a matter of fact, that I can remember.
Black Panther is a lot more sane. He was rooted up in family, and was raised in tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I see that.
Where Doom got his face scarred and went a little wacko.
Yeah.
He murdered his way to the top.
Yeah. So, he pretty much lost all of his sense of ethics when he lost whatever he lost on his face. But the old rumor used to be that he had a scar on his chin. That was his only difference, until Byrne drew a close-up shot of him to show that his whole face was scarred up. Because there's a classic cover of Thor where Doom takes off his masks, his mask, to show Donald Blake. And Blake goes, "Oh no, there's nothing that we can do for you." And really what it was is he had a scar on his chin. That's why all of his other incarnations had beards.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was the theory, at least. Like I said, until Byrne come in and showed a close-up in Fantastic Four and showed that his whole face had been scarred up. So,
right. Okay, cool.
Interesting character, anyway.
No, he's an awesome character. So let's move on. Evan, how would you handle this?
I would definitely be a hero. I think they are in short supply these days. And I think, it's sort of a simple power, but one that would help the world tremendously would be the ability to give someone compassion who maybe is lacking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A little empathy, spread it around. Yeah.
It was like,
it help the world.
It's funny. It's funny, though, that question, it's a little known fact that the first comic that I wrote was actually very much based on myself and sort of the feelings I had of not quite reaching my full potential. And I grew up in the Detroit area, and you sort of have fond memories of Detroit as a child, and you hear these horrific stories, day in and day out, of these awful crimes. So the comic was loosely based about an attorney who had a gambling problem, a drinking problem, and he'd hit rock bottom, and God meets him at Greektown Casino and says he's actually from a lineage of angelic superheroes. And his power is that he can read about one tragedy in a newspaper every day, and he can go back in time one day to try and alter that event from happening. So it's a story I'll probably end up working on, in the coming years, but that means a lot to me.
Got a title for it?
The Catharsis of Ezra.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is drawn by Alex Sanchez, who's also drawn Time Grunts, and we'll be drawing Silence.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, for myself, it's sad that I've actually thought about this question. Because
I'm
the
talking about pigeon shit too. Don't think that's something a quick answer.
you think about shitting on people's cars all the time. Is that this guy? He's getting the crapper today. Fuck him. But
Admit it, you read my Escapade book. That's what it was.
There you go. But
You want to be Captain Dildo.
wow. I think Captain Pigeon would work for him.
Captain Pigeon.
They could have a team up.
Exactly. But I like Superman's power set, but to be honest with you, the power I'd probably pick would be influencing people. So that, if I could look at someone, I could be like, look, you're going to have a great day today. And they would walk away and have a great day. Also, I would be able to walk up to some political leader and say, look, you're going to stop being a shitheel and you're going to do right by the people in this country. So that's actually the superpower I would pick. As far as being a hero or villain, I don't know.
Isn't that the mandrel's power?
That's what?
The mandrel.
Is it? Well,
Yeah,
he's got a naked butt. So
he secretes this type of pheromone that influences people, and they do.
Listen, that's Marcus's second mandrel reference in this show, brother. That's it. We've reached the quota of that character for
who's who in the Marvel universe? Kid, look it up.
He keep popping in my head.
Yeah.
I was just reading Dark Reign the other day, so
that's when he's big. That's right. Yep.
I think in Action Comics #2 or Superman #1, Superman said that to a senator, only he was hanging him by his feet outside of his 10th story window.
Right. I would rather, forego hanging by somebody by their feet and just be like, look, this is what you're gonna do, and they will go do it.
Right.
And like I said, I think
that's
JD will
rumor.
be Purple Man. There you go.
Right. That's also rumor from Umbrella Academy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing is she has to say the stupid line before she activates her power. All right. Here's another question. Paige is full of questions, so I'm just gonna keep her. You guys know Paige, Marcus and Evan.
Yeah, we actually we published Paige's books, both Chess and Blowtorch, as well as later this year we'll be publishing another series, Pinpoint. Blowtorch actually and Chess were in previews. I think the final orders for it have gone out, but you can go to your local comic book store, ask them for that. Blowtorch and Chess, yeah.
Right.
And then Paige and I, Paige stays down here in Florida as well. Paige and I have done we spent probably a good 14, 15 months doing cons together before the virus hit. So, yeah, I know Paige. He stays about 20 miles away from me.
Oh, okay. That's nice. All right. So if you could write a DC character into a Marvel title, what would it be? And vice versa. Let's start that with Mr. JM, the guy who hates superheroes.
I have no answer for this question. That's it.
He'd swipe Amazing Man with Forbush Man.
There you go.
It would be an awesome,
But see,
awesome
to me, right? But to me again, I don't understand the question because, like, I'm going to write a superhero into another superhero company's book.
Right.
I don't know.
That's his answer.
It even made it
I don't know
for you.
enough of the difference to be able to answer that well.
That cat is magical. Whenever he jumps up on the table, screws up his signal. Zoom. Yes, he is. Look at that.
I'm not saying a word.
Might be a flirkin in disguise.
Exactly. Your cat kills your signal every single time she jumps up there. It's hilarious.
It's magnetic. That's what it is.
Yep. All right, cool. So we'll move it over to Randy. Maybe he can clarify the question for you. Go ahead.
I always thought it would be an awesome intercompany event if they could ever get their act coordinated to the point where they would talk to one another, that Marvel and DC swap a character like trading cards for a year.
Mhm.
And at the time I had thought of this, Thor was at his low point and Hawkman was at his high point. And I thought, how cool would it be if both of the characters had some sort of cosmic accident and zip ended up in the other's universe and had to deal for a year. And then, somebody, Doctor Strange or Dr. Fate or somebody figured out how to get them back home. But in the meantime, they were a member of their big team. Suddenly Hawkman's in the Avengers and Thor's in the Justice League.
Mhm.
How crazy would that be?
Nice. Yeah.
But that's my thought on that. If I could write a DC character or a Marvel character, it would be those oddball characters I was talking about before. Marvel, I'd give my eye teeth to write Killraven for a while. And over at DC, there's a fantasy book called Ironwood that I liked a lot that didn't get enough appreciation. For maybe Commandy would also be an interesting book to write for a while. But
Oh yeah.
Mhm. All right, cool.
and swapping them, I think they ought to, but they can't. They'll never get along to the point where they could agree to swap IPs like that because everybody cherishes their money too much.
Oh yeah.
So what do you want Hawkman for? Holy crap! Can you make money off of that? Jeez, we're starting a movie.
Well, they did that with remember the Amalgam comics that came out,
Mhm.
Yep.
and that had some potential.
Mhm.
I got that Storm Wonder Woman crossover book, and
Nice.
yeah,
I
I
remember
thought that.
Doctor Strange Fate.
Yeah, yeah,
It was good. Yeah.
Mhm.
yep.
So, Marcus, how would you handle that question?
Oh, Paige already knows. I have no interest in writing any DC or Marvel characters at all.
Gotcha.
I started. I think, like I said, Randy and I have done shows before, so he can co-sign with me on this. I've been reading, collecting comic books since they were 12, 15 cents, and I've seen and gone with more continuity than I care to even think about at this point. So the characters from what I remember and what they are now are so different. Until I'd rather just do my own thing.
You would probably kill on a character like Mr. E, though.
Yeah, Mr. E. See, the characters like that, when they came out, those were the fresh new ideas. Those were the ones that you're like, man, I'm so tired of reading the same thing from Marvel and DC. So you got into Mr. E because Mr. E was a cool character.
Phantom Stranger, another awesome character with a horror angle that you'd be able to, I bet you'd do real well.
Yeah, I mean, when you step outside the box of Marvel and DC and you start seeing some of the other properties, once again, dating my age, since I am a horror fan, the whole underground comics movement was my movement. Getting the books like Creepy and Thriller and horror, and that whole thing was my movement. So being outside of that big two for a long time, it's so many more characters. It's such a big world that's outside of them. Because when you start reading Spider-Man in 1968, then here in 2021, he just doesn't hit the same way he did. It just didn't happen. So, I'm not interested in Marvel and DC. Now, what I am interested in is with Mr. Rosario over there. I'm very familiar with his character, and I wouldn't mind getting my hands on that, writing about a character with a sword and a shield.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. We'll talk after the show, Marcus.
We'll get to Mr. J in a minute. Evan, how would you handle it?
I've been asked, several times, what properties, from Marvel or DC I'd love to write, and this question's in a similar vein, and my answer is the same. I mean, why would I play with the neighbor's toys when I can play with my own? I just want to create my own characters and my own stories.
Okay, fair enough.
Although Black Adam for DC would be one I would consider.
There's always one.
Yes.
All right. Let's give it over to the superhero geek. Go ahead.
Yes, the superhero geek. Thank you. I definitely swap Nightwing and Iron Fist. Right, I'd place Iron Fist in DC because I feel that mystical world of Kunlun is not as well defined as Nanda Parbat is over with DC Comics. It branches out into so many different areas. It branches out into Deadman. It branches out into The Question. It branches out a little bit into the Phantom Stranger, who Randy brought up. Branches out also to Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins, stuff like that. So you've got a wider playground for Iron Fist to operate in if he was over in DC. And then I'd throw Nightwing over into the Marvel Universe. I feel he fits so much better in that setting because you don't really see a lot of characters who graduate, who grow up. Marcus, you brought this up. Spider-Man doesn't hit as well now as he did back then, right? But one of the things for me growing up was watching the evolution of Dick Grayson and Wally West, shed their childhood sidekick characters and become, their own element, stuff like that. And you don't see that happening a lot in over in DC. Over in Marvel at all. So going to what Evan said, why play with, anybody else's characters when I want to play in my own playground? Well, see, this right here, the Dragon Storm, is a mix of those two characters that I brought up. It has those influences of Nightwing and of Iron Fist that I love, and I brought those stories into my own playground.
That was a tremendous sales job.
You like that, right? You like that. That's years of working up cards, baby.
Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I would like to insert Hellboy into Legion of Superheroes and Cerebus into the Avengers. I think that would be fun. So that's how I'd work that out. And then
I can see that conversation between Thor and Cerebus for now.
Oh yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Who art thou, man, bear, pig?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then, then just have Hellboy running around in like the deep future, punching aliens in the face.
Nice. Yeah, I could see Cerebus answer Thor, like Randy said, with just 24 pages of text.
Right.
Long-running prose explaining its entire life story. Yes.
Yeah. I could write that. All right, and then another plug for Mr. Blowtorch. So.
And the thing about Alfred Page, he is not shy when it comes to promotions because as an independent creator, he knows if he doesn't talk about it, then it's not like everybody else is going to talk about it. So you got to continually do that. But he is fun. He is a fun person to do cons with because he has his whole style is like that of the Barker. He's like, hey, check me out. I got what you want over here. Hey, people walk by. I have seen people walk by and he's like, hey, wait a minute. You look like you want to come over here and get this book. And they just circle right back around and come back and then they buy the book.
Well, that's a good job. And then our good friend Joe D. McPhee, he said he would swap Mr. Miracle for Star-Lord. So I don't know if that would work. Oh, and here's one for
they've almost been written the same way the last couple of years, haven't they?
There's one for Jan.
I think the expression is cucked.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
No? Am I wrong?
I don't think
Randy going right jugular.
Yeah.
Huh? Who?
I read Tom King's Mr. Miracle, and I don't think he was cucked.
Okay.
I mean, he was a little. It was a little weird. Mr. King needs to get away from the 9-panel grid. Like really bad. He needs to get away from the 9-panel grid. Just too much. Like I think he read Watchmen, and he was like, "Yeah, this is how we do a comic all the fucking time." Really boring as fuck. But the artwork is really nice. I mean, the story is good in and of itself, but just that 9-panel grid is just like murder, like over and over again. It's like shit, man. Like stop. Well, anyway. So, anybody have anything to say about the 9-panel grid?
No.
Quick. No. All right.
It's an essential tool when it comes in handy, but like you said, you don't want to use it all the freaking time.
Yeah, because it's every page. It's just page.
I mean, Ditko and Watchmen. Okay, you're done.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
You can go on from there.
Oh, here's a selfish question.
Do you have very many books in your line, JD, that are 9-panel grids?
No,
No.
I don't want to torture the guys that work with me in that way, because they may never come back again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I ever saw Kirby do a 9-panel page, it was genius. A fight between Cap and Batroc. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
No dialogue. It just action. Boom, 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 done.
Yeah, I think I know the page you're talking about. Too.
Oh, yeah, it's iconic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got a selfish question for you guys. All right. So I have a dilemma, right? So I'm gonna see if you guys can help me out with this. So I have a 8-issue limited series, right? I want to finally make it into a trade paperback. Now, should I break it into 2 4-issue trade paperbacks, or should I make it one? We'll start with Randy.
How does it read? If it reads like it's 2 separate units, then it would be 2 4-issue hits. If it's one big long story, then I think you're probably stuck doing one. Plus, if you think you can make money doing it in 2 volumes first, then do 2 volumes, then offer 1 volume after that. Do it both.
That's what I was thinking.
Because you can always throw in like an additional story or a side story or some sort of adventure in the 2 books in order to make it enticing for folks, and just put everything all together into like an omnibus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. We'll go back to Mr. Marcus.
I can only co-sign to what he said. He took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I would think about maybe 2, but 1 is the omnibus has gained a lot more popularity now than before because of pricing, because of the production of it. You know, before it was a labor of love to put 240 pages down in a book, and it's not so much that labor of love. So the omnibus is always a good way to go. But 2 volumes, you can't lose. Work, especially if it's a continuous story. If you wrote the story, whereas it can be broken up into separate volumes, then do it that way as well.
There's one big drawback on an omnibus, though, that you absolutely have to keep in mind.
What?
It's next to impossible to read comfortably on the John.
Yeah.
This is true. I just finished Lucifer volumes 1 and 2, and they're like 15 pounds each. So yeah.
You're fumbling them all over the place.
Serious.
Got to keep that in mind. Convenience matters.
True.
Definitely.
Evan, what do you think?
I mean, I try to squeeze the most juice out of the fruit. Maybe try to get 3 out of it if you could, with added features or a backup story. And then after all that's sold, then do the omnibus.
All right. Man after my own heart. I like it. Jay?
Well, that's funny because that's what I'm doing right now. The 8-issue miniseries of Storm Chasers. So we broke up the first half, 4 issues in the first graphic novel, and the second volume 2 is another 4 issues in that. There is a break point. There is 2 different styles of storytelling between 1 and 4 and 5 and 8. So the thing is, though, with the omnibus, I mean, does it really sell in the indie market? I mean, is it a price point for us to go for? How many? I don't know if I can use cons as a reference because we don't have cons right now. But how would you price that omnibus? Are you going to price it at $50? Are you going to price it at $40? Is $40 something that was a natural sale at a con with somebody just dropping $40 on one book, or would you see them buying 2 or 3 books, at a deal to 60? I don't know if I do an omnibus. I packed a lot of extra bonus material into the into the single trades that I do now. I kind of like looking at a trade like the old Marvel annuals. You know, it was one main story, a B story, and then you'd have a Fred Henbeck thing in there every once in a while. You know, so that's how I or like a DVD. You know how DVD has extra tchotchkes and things like that. That's how I build my graphic novels. I don't know if I can pack all of that into an omnibus and still feel comfortable charging, you know, $40 for one piece. Will it move is the question that I really have.
Right. Okay. Cool. JM, how do you feel about it?
Well, you know, I think doing both is worth it. But what Jay's saying is true, and it's been a kind of a concern, even with me, like thinking in the long run, like, am I going to want to do that with Chattana? Like, I like the idea of an omnibus, but how much do people have to know and love your work to be willing to spend that much money on it? You know, I think it's more likely, you know, yeah, they could buy the first trade and then if they really love your stuff, but yeah, it's a big price point to be dropping on books. So yeah, I think both are worth doing. You know, don't go one way or the other. But if you had to choose one, and I would say, you know, if you're writing comics or anything, right, you probably should have something midway through that you could break it up into two. So yeah, if you had to choose one, I would go the 2 separate volumes, and then down the line think about an omnibus. You know.
All right, cool. Well, here's my
Can I get back to adding something to this?
Go ahead.
Right? Going back to cons, you know, we've all done cons, right? We know how that goes down. If you're limited in packing space, right? We know about 100 trades could fit into a roller style suitcase, and if you got an omnibus, you're limited with the amount of space you got. And you know, at cons, the more titles you have, the more diversified your product is, the better chance you had at turning a profit at a show like that. I think an omnibus, you know, limits the space and limits your opportunities to make multiple sales and expand yourself at a show.
All right, cool.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, here's my experience. So Daphne and I, we you know, done a metric ton of shows, but the one thing we notice is we have an omnibus for Tall Tales, and it doesn't do very well at shows. It does very well on Kickstarter, but it doesn't do well on shows. But when we had individual, when we broke up the series into individual titles, it did actually do very well. We would sell tons of them because we would price them at like $10-15 or whatever, and they would just go. So yeah, so that's where the thought process is coming from, because she noted because I was saying I was just going to do a thick book, and she was like, why would you do that? She was like, break it up. It'll be easier for us to sell at the shows, because the outlay is like, you know, the omnibus was $40. But someone would be willing to spend 10 or 20 as opposed to spending 40. And that's usually where, you know, people lie. You know, they'll drop $20, but I think it's when they have to drop 2 $20 bills, it becomes a little bit more difficult at a show. You know, whereas on Kickstarter, I don't know, I just see people, they're like, yeah, fine. Like, and they'll drop whatever they need to drop to get whatever they're, you know.
I think it's the button click mentality. I mean, it's almost like Monopoly money when you don't have to reach into your wallet or grab your credit card, you know, just hit one button, which is great.
Oh yeah, yes, I'm not complaining. So Mr. Page is back. Don't apologize, Mr. Page, you're good. With everything that's going on in the world, how do you write politics into your comics? We'll start with Evan.
I generally keep politics out. For me, you know, there are 2 main elements to storytelling. Number 1, you have to entertain the reader, and number 2, you have to write with emotion, in my opinion. So I wouldn't say I do any political writing per se, but definitely stuff that comes from the heart or something I've experienced mixed in with things that I love. Yeah.
Cool. Mr. J.
That's hard. You know, politics and religion, right? They're my views, and it's my thing to keep to myself, not to impose onto somebody else. You know, which is hard to say because comic books have always had a political slant. You know, in the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. But like Evan, if I remain, I guess, true to what I believe in without forcing it down somebody else's throat, and then still keep the book entertaining, you know, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot either. You know what I mean? Look, we're independent creators. You got to ask yourself, are you doing this for the art? Are you doing this to send a message? Or are you doing this, you know, to flip a buck and keep this going for as long as you can? You know, it's a slippery slope. Sorry, did I fart?
Was that outside your window? Yeah. Must have been his cat. Must have been that cat.
It could be. Maybe JD machine farts. I don't know. All right, cool. JM. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. Go ahead.
No, I was done. Sorry.
Okay. So JM, how do you look at it?
Well, I mean, I couldn't hear anybody else's response, so I'm not going to be able to piggyback or reference anybody else because my connection's getting all messed up. Without the cat this time, see, like she must be down here somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm
fucking Jersey,
freezing up
He just died.
again. All right. Hi.
Sorry, JM. You're dying on this guy. You're dying on us.
You're frozen. Sorry.
You're frozen. Oh,
And he's
there
gone.
he
And
goes.
he was.
All right, so we'll get back. Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I tried to reset the camera to see if that would work. Okay, so like, as far as like, yeah, I feel like, any type of storytelling. I don't know why this is a weird, thing to bring up in comics because I feel like whether it's movies or games or books or comics or whatever, like politics are in it. You may not like, now it may not be overt, but it's there. And so I have no
Sounds musical.
issue with it.
He's machining out.
And then, of course, yeah.
All right, JM. We're gonna move on to Randy.
But you're,
Yeah.
Alfred,
You
you're
might
in
wanna- you might want to reset your.
camera again. Yeah. Alfred, we're in a creative industry. So you do it creatively. And if you're telling a story that's personal to you, you're not going to be able to avoid getting a certain viewpoint in there. It's just a matter of hiding it. And I would bury it as creatively as you possibly can. And I'm sure all of us have seen the original run of Star Trek. And there are certain Star Treks that are incredibly political that have creatively buried that message way, way deep into the story. And there's other episodes there that just bluntly smack you between the eyes with a political statement. And when it starts up, you go, oh my God, there's Frank Gorshin again, half white, half black. Oh, geez. You know, we don't, and you know how that story goes, and you don't really want to watch it. Just keep in mind your audience is the same way. You don't want to hit them over the head with a political message. You don't want to smack them in the face with a political message. You don't want to jump on a soapbox unless you're doing a political piece. In the meantime, stay creative. Be creative as much as possible. And if you feel you have to bury that political message, or if you feel that There's no way you can get a personal story out without purveying that political message. Make sure it's buried so deep that your story is entertaining to anybody who will read it.
Mm-hmm.
Because seriously, the best way to get your ideals across is creatively and as buried as possible. You want your reader to think about the story instead of throw up walls and go, well, that's just political propaganda garbage.
Mm-hmm. Jam, you were going to say something?
Yeah, because I keep cutting out. I don't know if my response is really coming across properly. Like, I'm not saying to like bury the story like in like this political message at all. I'm saying definitely make it. Personally, I like when a storyteller does it in such a way that anybody could come to the book and enjoy it and almost interpret their own meaning from it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have one message. So yeah, like, you know, maybe it wasn't coming across right because I see somebody put a thing in there. Yeah, I don't write political thrillers. So yeah, unless it's like that, no, I wouldn't do it. But I do think there's politics and, you know, there's always a theme and a message behind a lot of the stuff that creators do. So that's always going to be in there, you know, unless you're writing like action flicks, you know, it's, yeah.
All right, cool. So, Mr. Marcus, how would you go about it?
I would do it jokingly because I'm not a political person. I have a relative that, I mean, he is up on everything that happens in Washington. He's up on everything, and I get all my political information from him. Me, on the other hand, I have a political reference in my story, Mississippi Zombie, where the zombie outbreaks hits Mississippi, and the governor says, I know the guy says he's going to put a wall up, but I didn't know he was talking about just putting it around Mississippi. That's as political as I'm going to get because I'm not a political person at all. I don't write stories that are agenda driven or anything of that nature. If I'm writing horror, you're going to get horror. It's going to be blood, guts, and somebody's dying. If it's superhero stuff, something's going to get blown up and somebody's got to stop it. You know what I mean? It's just, it is very on the surface, but I don't do politics because once again, I'm not a political person. I'm like JD. I have my own opinions, you know, they're mine, they're personal, and I just keep it to myself.
Gotcha. All right, cool. I mean, for myself, I was raised on metaphor. So one of the things I learned early on is like, you know, you insert the metaphor into the story, but it's not the story. You know, say you bury it in the background and, you know, people will come to their own interpretation as they come to it. You know, some people see the metaphor, some people won't, you know, and they'll judge and choose how they choose, you know, so that's how I look at it. And like anything else, you know, when you do that sort of thing, you just have to try to make it natural to the story. You know, you have to build your characters in a certain way and build it, you know, the construction of that story that way, if that's what you want to do, you know. I mean, you know, set it in the White House if you want to, like, you know, do that sort of thing, or set it in some other public, you know, space, you know. Hold on, I got.
If you're a good writer, you're not going to be soapboxing anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, if you want to entertain the widest amount of audiences you can possibly get a hold of, you're not going to pervade a political opinion anyway. It won't be there, at least, especially out front.
Right.
And you can do what I call Dave Letterman it, because Dave Letterman was always funny about a lot of different things, and you couldn't just say he was this or that. He was funny about everything. Some of the other political commentators nowadays, they lean one way or the other, but Dave just talked junk about everybody. He didn't care. So you can always Dave Letterman it.
All right, so we got another one here. This is one I ask all the time when I personally interview people. So who's your favorite cover artist? Or who would be your personal favorite cover artist? And I think we were up to Jay. So what is it? Let's go with the question. Andy Kubert, who's the cream of the crop guest artist for a cover for your title? So Mr. JD Rosario, who would you pick?
One of two people. So, well, two people, excuse me. I really like Scott Collins' work. I don't know if anybody's familiar with his stuff when he and Jeff Johns were doing the Flash, from 200 and down and stuff like that. It was cartoony, but it was mainstream. I really liked that. I liked what he did with Thing Freak Show. That's a favorite story of mine. So Scott Collins is one, and then I like the way people know him as Chris Cross,
Right.
Christopher Williams. With Milestone. I really liked what he did with the Captain Marvel stuff when he and Peter David were working that. I'd like that style on a cover of a book of mine or two.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
JM, who would you pick?
Hang on. For me, that's a tough one. I think it depends on the book I'm writing. Okay. If it's a horror piece or one of the darker Chattana pieces, I'm such a huge Mignola fan, Mike Mignola. So, I would definitely go there. But, there's been some other guys that have done some comparable work. It's just, again, it's like I'm not going to pick anybody that's doing the Marvel or DC thing. So, I don't know. That's always a tough one. I say just because he can do women well, and I still like his stuff. Adam Hughes. But I don't know, I don't know who else I would really hire as far as a comic guy goes, I feel like I'd be looking for somebody more in the illustration field to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm not feeling all of this superhero hate from JM. Can you move me to a box that's like not next to him, dude? Please.
No, you get to feel the cat. Randy, who would you want to get to be a cover?
If he were alive, I would be at Darwin Cook's feet.
Oh yeah.
Every cover he has ever done has left me in awe.
Right.
Just you sit there and you go, that's even the dullest of, in my mind, the dullest of characters are made exciting and fresh. No matter what time period he draws, no matter what he does, all of his cover work to me is just startling and amazing. Alex Toth is the same way too, as far as layout, composition, and look and style goes. Living, if I had an open budget, I would definitely run to Joe Jusko.
Okay.
And go, dude, you need to do covers for me really bad. I would love to have or be able to print some of his work. As far as comic book guys go, that would be a hard one to pin down, because there's a lot of as far as line work goes that I am very envious of, that I would love to have or print their work of. Cover work, though, just immediately jumps to mind.
All right, cool. Mr. Marcus, who would you pick?
He stole mine. I am a long time Savage Sword of Conan collector. Long time. I started collecting it back at issue probably 38 and ran all the way up to the 300s. And Jusko killed it every time.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the work he's been doing for the Burroughs estate on the Tarzan novels, you can honestly see all of the love on that canvas. It's amazing. It's just great work.
And because of how much of an influence he had on me for my own comic, The Protector, the issue that's coming out, to have Luciano Fleitas to do that, because his style is, it took me right back to Jusko and the Jusko covers from back in the day.
Nice. All right, cool. Mr. Evan, who would you get?
I'm pretty lucky, actually. I grew up a G.I. Joe guy, and I love the Nom. And, of course, Michael Golden did some of the best cover work for those titles. And in my opinion, he's pound one of the best cover artists, in comics history. So I've been lucky enough actually to work with him now, not once, but twice. He did a Johnny Phantasm variant cover for our Halloween campaign. And then he is doing a Virgin cover for issue 1 of Silence that is just out of this world. So,
Sweet.
I mean, that's been awesome. I mean, outside of him, in terms of guys I'd be interested in, Lee Weeks would be up there. And also, I love the work of Daniel Warren Johnson. I mean, there's just so much going on, so much storytelling to his artwork, which is something, that I think is essential for a good cover.
All right, cool. For me, my top pick is always Arthur Adams. But if they were still alive, I would definitely want Bernie Wrightson.
Oh yeah,
Wally Wood.
yeah.
And another person who is alive, Alex Ross. So, yeah, those.
You guys went like explosive. I try to stay within budget. It's like
Oh no,
Your dreaming doesn't have to have a budget.
Exactly, it's a fantasy question. Why budget?
I'm spending Monopoly money, man. I can get it wherever I want.
One of the guys local.
I should have said, the John Byrne, Terry Austin stuff. They
Yeah,
were my 80s.
There you go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from X-Men all the way to Namor and everything in between. Avengers, West Coast Avengers, Alpha Flight. Shit, I only picked up Alpha Flight because of John Byrne, man.
Yeah.
Why else would you?
Yep. It's very true. One of the guys that's local to me that I try to print as often as I can get my hands on it is Chris Skelf, who works with airbrush and Photoshop. Just does amazing work.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I got him on a cover on one of the Indie Revolt covers.
Yeah,
he's just amazing.
Yeah, that's an awesome cover. All right, so Mr. Page has another question, but we're gonna shelf him for a minute. All right, hold on. He's got a lot of airtime tonight. So here's one that I've heard a little bit of controversy online. I mean, I don't know. It's a little weird, but I'm not asking this question for controversy. I'm asking this question because I am interested in everybody's opinion on this. And the question was, is it a good idea for the creators to put their names on the cover of their comics? So I think I'm up to JM, right? Or am I
think so.
Yeah, I think I'm up to JM. So JM, you got that? I think you froze again. You got that face. Look at that face.
Look at that face.
That face.
Yeah.
That wonderful face.
Okay. JM, try to reboot. We'll move over to Randy. So Randy, how do you feel about that?
About putting your name on the cover, putting your name over the title?
Not necessarily over the title, but it could just be on. Well, yeah, some people put on the over the title, some people put on the bottom. Just to have the name of the creators on the cover of the book.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, okay, you were going to start with. I seem like I caught up now.
Go ahead.
I definitely would.
Go, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on the recent Chattana I have coming out, I mean, like everybody's names are right up there. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. Books do it. So yes, if you're a creator, why wouldn't you be putting it on a comic? I don't know.
Got it.
No.
Okay. I think we got his answer, so he machined out, but I think we got it though. All right. So we're gonna move on to Randy. How do you feel about it?
I could see running it as credits, just like J.M. DeSantis does on below, just to give everybody's name, put everybody's name on the cover. I think that really started with the mainstream trying to give everybody an attaboy, something that they could do without actually having to pay somebody. Until like Image popped up, and then they didn't want to point at any of the talent at all. But you still see a signature down there every once in a while. Every once in a while, you have to do it over the title, especially if you do a character that has a name that might be confused in the marketplace. Say, for example, Pandora. There's a lot of Pandoras out there, but if you want to do your version of Pandora, though Pandora as a name is in public domain and as a character because it's a mythological name, you still want to run your name over top. So it'd be like Randy Zimmerman's Pandora.
Yep.
In order to distinguish that from somebody else. But doing it as an ego boo over top of the title, that's a little out of line, I think. I also have a problem with people who sign their name, artists who sign their name incredibly huge on a cover. It should be there, but it shouldn't be standing out like a sore thumb. Unless you're giving them a byline, like what JM does, and nice type down there, tasteful along the bottom, or slightly larger for the creator. It's great. But when you're looking at a piece of art and all of a sudden you see the squiggle down at the end of the bottom corner that's incredibly huge and invasive, that gets to be a little problem. Signing your name is different, but signing your name, I think it's really a problem. That's kind of a testament to ego.
It's interesting you say that, Randy. I had a college professor. He did some work for Marvel, but it wasn't one of the big names. But he never signed his work because his opinion was like it's not part of the art. Now I always sign mine, but I don't make it huge. But yeah, his feeling was it's not part of the image. Don't sign it. Well,
you want to leave your mark, your brand on a work that you're specifically proud of, but you don't want to make it so huge that they can't help everybody. It just gets in the way.
Right.
Of the artwork or the actual work.
True. Mr. Marcus, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think that it should go up there, and for the reason why, and instead of it being something that the mainstream started, it was started back in the 70s by Charlton Comics. The creator Wayne Howard was the writer, artist, letterer, the everything on their comic book Midnight Tales. So they started putting his name on the cover of the book. And when they asked the president of Charlton Comics, well, why did you do that? He said he wrote it, he drew it, he lettered it, he did everything to that book. Why not put his name on the cover? So it started from there, and it went from being something like this guy did everything on this book. His name deserved to be on the cover to, the person who went and ran and got coffee. He wants his name somewhere on the inside credit page. Right. But it was something. It was like a badge of honor. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It was a badge of honor for that company to recognize him that way, because before that, it wasn't done. All you got was just cover. So, and now I think it's more so you know who did what in the book.
Yeah. Well,
I know that. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, I just said I did not know that history. It's very cool.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah. There is, yeah. What were you saying, Jane?
Oh, I was just going to say that. I don't put who did what on the cover. Of course, like in the book, they get the credit. But another thing that actually kind of came to mind while we're talking about this, because I know a couple of letterers, and they always feel like they're the unsung heroes of the books. My letterer's name is on the cover too. So it's not just the interior artist, but the letterer is on there too. Yeah, and you don't see that enough. And honestly, like I've done some lettering myself. There's a whole art to it. They really should get credit for the work they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little aside.
No, I screw the editor. I mean letterer. Screw that guy. I just say that because I letter my own books. That's why. Evan, how do you feel about it, man?
I mean, I think unless there's some sort of aesthetic reason for not having credits on there, they should always be on there. I mean, everyone worked hard to create the product, and they deserve the recognition. And what JM was saying is becoming more and more true. Silence is a perfect example. It was a very good book to begin with, but we had letter squids letter at Justin, and I mean, he just treated it as an art form and just added so much to the feel of the book and the pacing. You know, it wouldn't be the same book without him. So we're definitely putting, you know, his name on the cover.
Yeah. Cool, nice. Mr. Rosario?
I'm agreeing with the dais. You know, Randy hit it right on the head with the attaboy. You know, but it's, you know, you're respecting the people that you work with on the property, and I understand it for, you know, identifiable and legal reasons. You know, that needs to be done. But when you look at pretty much almost every other mass media property out there, you look at a TV show, credits roll. You know, most credits roll, you know, before the show or the movie starts. Even as far as producers and executive producers, you look at a movie poster and everybody's name is right there on the poster. You don't flip the poster over to the back. You know, it's there. I don't know why people are pushing back on it. I think some folks just got too much time on their hands.
True. I mean, I'll just do this. So if you look,
Yeah.
you know, we put it on there, nice. You know, it goes on there. I mean,
Nice and tasteful.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because I think the argument is that some people just feel it's vain if you put your name on the cover, or you're just not anyone of any import, you know, to put your name on the cover. But it's your work; it should be on there. Also, if you look at like big publishers like Random House and those companies, they get a brand new author.
Mhm.
What's the first thing they do? They put his name on the cover because they're looking to sell his next book.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll build on that.
Mhm.
And that's what you're doing. You're building on your name. So you have to have, if you don't have your name on there, how are they going to build on it? You know, and the same thing goes with us. You know, we have to like build on names. So, you know, yeah. I just saw that floating around the internet and I was like, all right, maybe we should talk about that. You know, so put your damn name on the books, kids. Right?
Maybe that's
Well, just be careful how you do it.
Well, of course.
You know, and make it tasteful, but be careful because, like, for example, I've got a book that I did for Mythic Comics a long time ago. If I had put my name on it, it would have looked ridiculous because it would have been Randy Zimmerman's The Fool.
Right.
You know, that wouldn't have worked at all.
or maybe it would have.
Maybe it would have.
There you go. All right. So I don't know, with the exception of Randy, I think everybody here has done a Kickstarter. No, and JM, I know you haven't done one. All right. So I'm going to ask this question, and, you know, for those of you who need to abstain, you're going to abstain. And for those of you who even done this, do you guys feel that landing pages work? You know, that early sign-up page work on a campaign, whether it be Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it doesn't really matter. Well,
I didn't use one.
Huh?
I didn't use one.
You've never used one?
No, so I see other people do it, and I guess it, you know, I don't know if it's a fad or because you have fads. Somebody sees somebody else do it, so they try it. They really don't understand the logistics of it. They don't understand the statistics and things of that nature, so they don't know if they got a benefit from it or not. But I don't do it.
Okay. Evan, have you ever done it?
Yes. You know, the pre-launch page is crucial. It's basically like an email list on Indiegogo, and getting people to sign up for that, getting notification of when your campaign goes public. But then also what we did was offered something called a secret perk, where only people that sign up for the list purchase a certain tier level. So we had quite a bit of success with that. So yeah, they're hugely beneficial.
Okay, cool. Jay, have you ever done one?
What's a landing page? No. No. They you know, they do work, but converting on everybody who signs up for that is the hook. You know, if you track a Kickstarter campaign, you know, Indiegogo not so much, but when you track on Kickstarter, you can see your project followers, people that signed up from the beginning. You know, I've only done the landing pages on my last 2 campaigns, and you can get 100 people that sign up. I haven't done a special perk like Evan has, but converting on those people that sign up, that's the key. You'll see maybe 10 to 15% of those people will convert by the end of the campaign, at least for me.
Okay, cool. I was just curious. I've never done one. I'm curious as to whether or not I should do them, but we'll see. I like to go against the grain.
At standards and practices, Colin.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my stomach is acting up tonight.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. That's what you get for swallowing that digital alarm clock.
All right.
Liddy's.
Okay.
Oh, I almost read that wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? So actually,
I did read that wrong.
yeah. It's a little cut off. Yeah, it cut off for some reason. Okay, I'll read it off. This question comes from Evan, so I'll read it off. In 2021 is a good. All right, in 2021 is a good story enough. Everyone has always had an opinion, but now they have a camera and a microphone to broadcast their thoughts into the cosmos. In an internet sea of creator personalities, do you need to be the next Max Headroom to be successful? To be a successful creator, or will a good story with relatable characters still find its way into the hearts and minds of readers without the added chatter?
It's a 3-part message or 3-part question.
So, all right, let's.
No, I'll answer it first. No.
Go ahead.
You don't have to be a Max Headroom personality. You don't have to be on the internet, but it's going to take longer for people to find you because being on the internet and having a camera and a microphone, especially right now, considering the situation we're under, is probably the best way to reach the most amount of people. That's something we've really found with the Indy Volt radio network. We're not on YouTube. Our numbers on YouTube look really low. I mean, if you look at what the numbers that Indy Volt pulls down on YouTube or even on Facebook are absolutely nothing compared to the amount of audience that we're generating on internet radio. But we're hitting people all over the world with that. So
cool. I kind of like this. I don't have to see JD.
Yeah, there we go. We're all hidden.
You'd be friends with my ex-wife.
Oh wow! So, there you go, lady.
The
How do you
two
like it?
get along swimmingly.
Oh, there you go.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't even want to look at you. Yeah.
Marcus, how do you feel about it?
Well, the fact of the matter is, we if you're old as I am, you see the trend. Even before Max Headroom, it's like you found people who were popular or were able to gain popularity in some kind of way. So the camera and mic thing, that's just evolution, and that's the evolution of publicity. But everything when you're dealing with mainstream, when you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with a huge crowd, popularity is everything. And if you could have the absolute best property out there, and if you aren't a popular person, it ain't gonna move. The camera and microphone has only just intensified that, but it's always been that way. The least popular you are, then the more likely your stuff is moving because people don't know you because you're unpopular. That's why, I'm not gonna say I hate for it to sound like I'm hating or anything like that, as the expression goes, but like in the 90s, you started seeing a lot of celebrities make comic books, and the comic books were selling like crazy. And some of these books were good, but some of these books, they were like, stick to your day job. But because they were actors or musicians or whatever, the books would sell, even though the stories weren't good, just based on their popularity alone.
All right, cool. Evan, we're gonna save you for last because it's your question.
Sure.
All right. So, Mr. Rosario.
I'm agreeing with everybody here. No,
Here, I'll show you the question again.
You make me peel myself from laughing, Tom. No, it's the opposite of Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will not come. At least not in the beginning. You know what I mean? Once you build up a following, there's people that that come to know your work, like your work, continue to follow your work. It'll be easier to sell, but you need to Dick Clark this. Forget Max Headroom. Dick Clark was out there on $10,000 pyramid because he was showing his face 5 days a week, and he was getting that exposure. I can say with my last campaign, jumping on shows like this with you guys, definitely expanded the audience, definitely brought awareness to the products that I'm putting out there. It was different when we were just doing the convention circuits. You didn't really have time to do this, to be honest with you. You're doing a convention, and for anybody who thinks it's all shits and giggles, no, man, you're putting in work at a con. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're hustling out there. You're on your feet 14 hours a day, unless you're sketching covers. But even then, you're still working. And I don't know how people go to party after a show. I've tried it, and the next day was not successful. When I'm away, I'm taking the grub up to the little shitty hotel or motel that I'm at, and I'm trying to get as much sleep as possible so I can be on point the next day. And you didn't have time to do shows like this when you're doing cons, even though this did exist. So not having that is giving us this exposure here. So there are pluses and minuses to everything that's going on. Sorry, there's a cost, but you need to get out there, man. You need to hustle. You need to speak your piece on your product.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Mr. DeSantis, how do you feel about it? Here. I'll show you the question again too, because he's drinking.
JD just did a spit take.
Yeah.
You motherfucker.
I started lagging again the minute you started asking the questions.
There you go. So it was a good point.
Yeah. Was that vodka all over the phone?
Lucky it didn't go all over the camera.
Well, here,
I was going to ask the borrow JM's cat to clean my screen.
Right. So I don't know. I'm probably gonna be the one guy that's gonna kind of disagree with everyone on this. But now I'm gonna say kind of two ways, right? So I mean, the easiest way, yes, is if you're out there plugging, promoting everything else. But word of mouth can still work. You can still have a good product that will get to people. Plan, and you have to be out there, and you have to be trying to, get your book in front of people. Now, the other thing I will say about it too is you have to go with what works for your personality. So not everybody's good on camera. Not everybody's good at shows. It doesn't mean that if you don't do that stuff, you're not going to be successful. You have to find the marketing that's going to work for you. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of elements to it. Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the day, if you have a good product, you should be confident enough to get out there and sell it. And if you don't have a good product,
like his camera.
Yeah. If you promote it well enough, it'll sell. And then things will die off afterwards. You still want to put together a good product regardless, All
right. Or we got him.
I think so.
Yep. All right. So for myself, I find it very useful because I know. Go ahead, Randy.
You're going to go to Evan, right?
No, Evan's last.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Never mind then.
Yeah. So I'll go before Evan. So I mean, for myself, I think it is important that we go out there and put ourselves out there as much as we can. Especially for those of us who don't like to do it. I personally don't like to promote. I don't like to talk about my work. I do it, and I know this is for me. Like this is where I have to go out and just like just talk about the work, talk about what you're doing, put it out to the world. And I found that it helps. It helps with the campaign. I've seen some increases, which is good. I just have to put myself out even further. I have to start going out onto other shows and other streams and that jazz. But that's phase 2, I guess. So Evan, how do you feel about it, man?
Phase 2.
The same way, you like to think that your work and the story sells itself and gets people hooked, but the reality is, you have to get out there whether you're comfortable with it or not. I'm extremely lucky because, my collaborator Johnny Phantasm, Patrick Parnell, is extremely outgoing. He's always out there. He has his own YouTube channel. He's out there and making us money. And also now with Second Sight, they've been out there, promoting Silence, promoting other creative teams' works. So it's nice to have a publisher like that who's in your corner and out there, pitching your story. So maybe for those of us who aren't as outgoing, or for me, maybe who are a bit of technophobes, they're able to, carry that ball over the line.
Cool.
And as we step away from that question, the one thing I would like to point out personally, as a personal pet peeve of mine, is when you get a camera, when you get a microphone, don't try to be Max Headroom, because there's only one Max Headroom. And if you come across it's so easy. And I did a lot of YouTube watching before I got involved with Indie Vote, when Varian said, come on, you're old, you got stories. Come on, let's do this regular podcasting. You can tell when somebody is being fake. And it's not their personality coming through. They're trying to be an extra special character and do emphatic gestures or talk goofy or whatever. It comes through as fake. You want to get up on YouTube and be yourself. You want to, and if you're nervous about that, or if you have a bad problem with that, don't look at the camera. Look at your screen, or look away, or just keep in mind that you're talking among friends and have a friendly conversation. That's all you have to do. Don't worry that there's thousands of people out there, that are going to be listening to you. Just say what you mean, give your point, and and you can be as entertaining as possible, but don't be fake. Because people pick up on that, and it drives me crazy.
Yep.
True. And then here's one from Joe. I needed my YouTube show to boost my exposure. I needed a show like Indie Vote to reach places I couldn't get on my own. Point being, you have to find you find your own way to get you and your book out there. So yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
And I know Joe likes to push a lot of different points of entry, or a lot of different capital streams. It's the same way when you're broadcasting and marketing. You want to get out there in as many different places as you can, and spread those seeds out as far as they can go, and see what you can grow. Don't just hit one show all the time. Get out there and talk to different people and different audiences, and spread your name out there.
Yep. Diversify your portfolio.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly. Now, this one is we're coming close to the end, so I got one question here that has nothing to do with business. So here's one for you. What was the first comic book store you ever went into? Right, in an actual comic book store, not a candy store. Was the first comic book you ever went into, and what's the first thing you ever purchased in that store? Right. So, and I think we were back to Mr. Marcus, or we're at Evan.
Yeah, I can start. First comic book shop is still the comic book shop I go to this day. It's Comics Corner in Utica, Michigan.
There you go.
Cool.
Outstanding shop. Great personal touch. Great indie section. Also, they do some great specials on graphic novels, some stuff that's been out of print for a while. But I honestly don't remember the very first thing that I purchased there. I was a spinner rack kid at first, and I think it was, I forget the issue number, it was a Fantastic Four issue that had Galactus on the cover and sort of a terrified Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Girl, and the Thing kind of looking at him in these little circular spots. And that's what I remember.
All right, cool. I might have that book. I might have that book. So Jay, what about you? What was your first?
Oh man, you hit me right in the feels, brother. So my first comic shop was the original style of comic shop, not the stuff that we get today, where things are nice and neat on the wall and shelves. It was the old guy smoking a cigarette behind the counter. Definitely no candy. All the new books were laid out on a fold-out table in the center of the room. You could smell that paper, man. I love that comic book paper smell. And then he definitely had the long boxes up on the shelves and stuff like that. Had a local kid working it. It was on Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn, East Flatbush.
Awesome.
My dad's youngest sister took me because she knew I was into comic books. So she brought me there. And the first comic book shop book that I bought 2 books that day. I'll never forget it. It was an X Factor drawn by Art Adams. It was issue number 40, where the Marvel Comics had the Create a Mutant character contest winner. The character was named Alchemy. Art Adams did great work on the X Factor team, fighting trolls and stuff like that. And then I bought the Marvel Universe Handbook of the Dead, the one that had Captain Marvel on the cover until everybody had died in the Marvel Universe up to that point. And that for me was huge because, I write the, I'm not going to look for it, but, I have character guides and I love that. Growing up in the 80s, we weren't privy to so many back issues as you are today. So being able to get all of this past information that happened in those handbooks was like a treasure trove for me. So that's a big moment for me, man.
Nice. JM, what was it for you?
Well, actually, in my hometown of Richfield Park, I mean, we had a comic shop open up on Main Street when I was a kid, so that was it, As far as what I bought, I couldn't tell you, but I would say that at that time in my life, I would probably be able to guess it was Ghost Rider, Spawn, or maybe a Pack of Magic: The Gathering. So yeah, that was one of those 3 is probably what it was. Yeah.
What was the name of the shop?
Oh God, I don't remember. I remember the name of the guy that owned it, Phil Dispenza. But yeah, I mean, so I'm Teaneck is right by me, and there's still A&S Comics out in Teaneck. But yeah, that shop closed down, the one in Richfield Park, a long time ago. And then I used to go to Creators Connection, I think it was, in Teaneck. And then yeah, A&S is the only one that's still around in the area. But, well, Joker's Child, I guess, isn't far from me either. Yeah. But I'm in New Jersey, so, Yeah. Why do you ask? Do you think you've went to that comic shop?
No.
No, I have. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what it was. Yeah,
I'm a Manhattan kid. Randy, what about you?
I lived in a small town up in the upper north west corner of the county. Used to drive 20 minutes up to Saginaw to Libby's Comics, and she didn't stay. It was run by a woman. And it was in the basement of a bookstore, and you'd walk down the flight of stairs outside, cement stairs. You had to be careful in the winter, or you would go skiing down those stairs. But you open that door, and there was that musty basement smell. Woof.
Yeah.
And then that newsprint smell that JD was talking about, and that was it. As far as first books that I ever bought from her, I don't remember, but I imagine they were probably because she was a very liberal-minded person. It was probably a Black and White Underground book. at the time. I remember bringing her a bunch of Silver Age books in grocery sacks because I didn't have a lot of money back then, and I would trade those Silver Age comics for comics that she had. And she was one of the first outlets for direct distributing. We had a distributor up here out of Big Rapids, Michigan, called Big Rapids Distributors that Jim Friel ran, that I got to know really well. I had the first comic shop in my county. I opened up in a little room next to a pinball arcade that I was running at the time, called it Trilogy Books, right out on Miller Road, which is a main drag here in Flint, and sold books and was able to get comics from that same distributor. This was a couple of years after Libby. Libby's stayed there for, I think it was 5 or 6 years, and ended up selling out to another guy who's the store is still there to this day, that it's changed hands a couple times, turned into Coy's Comics. But that's a lot of fond memories of driving up to Saginaw, running down into that basement, being careful not to slip and break my neck in order to get to those funny books. Yeah, those comics. And then other than that, the Curious Bookshop in East Lansing used to be a favorite haunt of mine, especially during my first marriage, when I was driving the wife once a week down to Sparrow Hospital. She was diabetic, and they had to keep an eye on the baby. And they had a room upstairs that Beppe Sabatini was the counter guy's name. And there was this huge painting that somebody was doing of all these different characters up the stairway wall that's still there to this day, even though they don't use the upper floor anymore for comics. They moved that to a different location, but that's still there, and it's been years. But yeah, real fond memories there, and all of those places.
Gotcha. Mr. Marcus, what about you?
Well, I'm originally from a small town in Georgia, and we had no comic book shop. So I would have to go over to Statesboro, Georgia, where Georgia Southern University is. And my folks were actually going to school over at Georgia Southern, and they would always stop by the comic book shop on the days that I had to go. And we're talking the mid 70s. So the first comic book I remember buying from that shop, and I don't even know if that shop is still there, but I remember buying A Werewolf by Night.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was really into The Werewolf by Night at that time. And then they sold a whole lot of the underground comics, but because of my age, I couldn't really get to them, even though every now and then I was able to sneak a look at one. But one thing about Statesboro and about the comic book shop was it was a big wide open area, and you had like 12 tables, and on each table was long boxes of books. You didn't know which was new or old. You just saw comic books, and you grab what you wanted to go to the counter, and the guy would be, that's 10 cents. Yeah, you just didn't know.
Yeah.
Where,
but they were all just laid out there in one spot.
Cool.
Nice. I mean, for myself, it was a store called Super Snipe in Manhattan on 82nd and 2nd Avenue, about a mile from my house.
Remember seeing ads for that in the Overstreet Guide.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was probably 10, maybe, when I first got in there. And I remember the first thing I purchased, they had, back those days, they would tear off the covers and send them back to the publishers as proof. They would keep the guts, and they would put them. They had a short box in front of the door, and you could buy the guts for a penny.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, you could buy the guts for a penny.
Yeah.
So I remember buying one of those, and it was an issue of Daredevil, where it was the issue where it was one of Frank Miller's early works, one of the earlier part of his run, where Daredevil fights the Hulk, and all the Avengers are visiting him in the hospital because he fought the Hulk, and he's in the bed, he's in the hospital, and you see Thor, Captain America, and they're all like, "Oh shit, look at this." But yeah, that was a book I remember picking up for the first time. So that was really cool. Now, before we wrap this up, I'm going to ask, does anybody have a question for the panel? No? Okay. All right. So I'll show this. Mr. Page had one last thing.
You gonna cover my face again?
Almost.
All right. Well, I mean, I could just, post that one again, but this is for Paige. All right, so it says, let's keep it going. In the pages of Blowtorch #1, Blowtorch has to close the book on a loving relationship with a nurse that saved his life to start a new one with his teammate Footpath. How do you bring real life emotions of love and relationships into your comics? All right. So, who wants to answer that one first? Jay, you, yes.
Yeah, cover my face again. No, I'll go back to something Randy said earlier. You bury it. You do it creatively, right? That's it. I mean, look, I'm not any special trained writer over here. I'm just taking, certain life experiences, certain experiences that I know that happen to those around me, and putting my spin on it. Whether it's love, whether it's drama, heartache, stuff like that. You need it to build character. You need it to make your protagonist three-dimensional, even your antagonists. So you find a creative way to do it.
All right, cool. Mr. DeSantis, let's move over to a real writer. Mr. DeSantis, how would you deal with this?
God, that's horrible. Yeah, a real writer who can't get his. I would say, same thing Jay's saying. I mean, and kind of going back to the politics thing. Yeah, you got to just, use the metaphors, to tell your story the best way you can, and your life experiences. Part of it is too. I mean, if you haven't experienced something in your life that you want to be able to write about, relate it to the closest thing you can think of that you've gone through. Because there's a little bit of shared experience between people. And that's the only way you're even going to be able to relate on any level. If you can get to the real emotion of it. So, you just got to tap into what you've.
He's frozen.
I think he's frozen. All right. He's frozen.
That's our max headroom right there.
There you go.
Now
Sorry, Jeff,
it's gonna drop.
Yeah, right.
You got to come back here anytime, though. There he is.
Yep, I think he's back.
You're back.
You were frozen for a second.
Was I gone?
Yeah, you've become unstuck in time.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know. Half the time, I'm not even hearing you guys. So it's
we just unplugged you from the Matrix, man.
There we go.
Interesting experience.
You took the wrong pill.
Definitely took the wrong pill. All right, so Randy, how would you go about this?
How do you close the book on a loving relationship with the nurse that saved his life?
Mm-hmm.
What everybody does in real life, you send her a nasty text and you tell her to stop stalking you. No,
Damn.
you have to use personal experience. My big suggestion to anybody who wants to know how to write dialogue, or especially meaningful dialogue, is to stand in front of a mirror and say it. And if it sounds hokey to you, it's hokey.
Right.
If it doesn't sound right to you, it's not right. Make it sound as realistic to the character. You almost have to put yourself into both characters and do a dual conversation back and forth until it sounds right in your head, how somebody would say it. You're going to have to find somebody, and you probably already know somebody if you're writing this book that you associate that nurse character to, that you can reflect your relationship in real life if you need to. Just be careful not to do it all the time, or you're gonna your book's gonna go stale really quick because you're doing a comic book and not a romance novel. But yeah, saying dialogue out loud, out in front of a mirror, is the best way to make sure that it sounds right and that it works right. Now, how you actually do that and write that in, that's entirely up to you, because relationships are, I wouldn't say totally unique, but they basically follow a certain pattern depending upon how the two characters relate to each other. You know, you're just going to have to figure that out, almost like choreographing a fight scene.
All right, cool. Mr. Marcus, how do you feel about how would you tackle this?
Everything that Randy just said. Also, depending on what the genre is, I mean, I prefer to do horror stuff, so I'm not trying to get in a deep, loving relationship. These people are running for their lives or trying to figure out how to survive. You know,
usually involves a bloody knife and a chainsaw.
Okay. I always got up to go to the bathroom when they showed all these big emotional scenes on The Walking Dead, because, you know, there's no killing and no zombies. So my take is superficial, because on the one hand, you know, it's the genre I write in, but on the other hand, if I am writing a story and it requires somebody that is, you know, trying to bare their soul emotionally, and I got to put it in the comic, then yeah, I'm going to do as Randy had just described. I got to write it where it sounds real, which means I got to actually say it out loud. And then I'm not going to try to get too deep, because ultimately that's not what my comic is about. I'm not writing a romantic comedy comic book. I'm either writing a horror or action or something along those lines, and that's what I'm going to stick to. Yeah, I actually have read a comic book that was a romantic comedy, and it was a superhero with superhero characters. And after, you know, getting in the middle of the book, it's like, you know, he could have just did this with Archie and Veronica and Betty. He didn't have to have guys flying around, because that's he wasn't trying to write a superhero story. He was trying to write a romantic story, a romantic comedy using superhero characters. And it just, yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, if that's what you're going for, be all in, be committed, and do it. But if that's not what you're going for, then hit and miss. Like, yeah, I loved you, you saved my life, now I got to put this bullet through your brain, so and keep it moving.
All right, cool. Mr. Posios, how would you go about it?
Well, I think I agree with what Marcus said to some extent, but I think whatever genre you're writing, you can incorporate and draw on that emotion. I mean, for instance, Time Grunts is, you know, sci-fi time travel, but it's also about, you know, dealing with your inability to change the past. Johnny Phantasm is, you know, Beetlejuice meets Scarface, but there's also the element of, okay, you know, you're at a reckless stage of your life, and you can, you know, use a lot of those elements in your writing. So I think you have to not handcuff yourself by thinking about your audience. You write to yourself, you know, you write exactly what you're feeling. And for me, you know, a lot of people say you should write every day. I say, you know, write when you have that emotion, you're feeling it, whether it be sadness, anger, what have you. That's when your best writing gets done.
All right, cool. I know for myself, you know, just like reality, you know, these things are based on conflict. So, I mean, I like where he's going, you know, where he has, I guess, he's breaking up with this character. And as far as that situation, there's a bunch of different ways he can go about it. And then he's making this new relationship with his new character, Footpath. But what I would find more interesting is that after like a month or two with Footpath, what does he find? Let's say he finds out that he's not really compatible with this person and he misses the other person. I would think that would be more interesting, way to go. It's like, all right, things are not working out with this person. Shit, I screwed up with that other person. How can I get back together with that other person and maybe make that other person kind of vengeful and maybe come after him with a knife? Who knows? But, there's a lot of different ways to work around it. So yeah. So there you go, Mr. Alfred. Good luck. One last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Mr. Joe, my first comic shop was during the time I lived in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a comic shop in the mall that looked more like a kiosk in a room. And there were second printings of G.I. Joe #2. So there you go. That's awesome. Yeah. I only wish I could walk back into Super Snipe, because for the same reason, the smell and just, listen, when you were a kid and the books were like, well, for me at the time they were 45 and 50 cents. So I know I'm dating myself. I know Marcus was saying a dime, so I was like, okay, wow.
Hey, I was born in 1965. My birthday is actually end of this month. And I said this before, I am a generational comic book reader. My father and his relatives read comic books. So when I growing up, it was like natural to have comic books around. Like that was the first thing that I did as a 4 and 5-year-old was read comic books.
Good for you.
So I've had a half a century love affair with these things.
Yeah, I'm 3 years younger than you. So
yeah. So you know exactly what I'm saying. If you've been in the comic books any amount of time, then it's like even though there's nothing new under the sun, as they say, I still get excited about them. I don't care how many times I see the Hulk smash. I still like to see the Hulk smash, and because I always imagine seeing it on the big screen, to actually be able to see it on television, to see a movie about it, man, it set me all the way back to my childhood.
They call that a geek boy moment.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. They tell me I geeked out, a fanboy. I'm a big fanboy now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Shit. You're in a room full of them.
Yeah.
First time Wolverine popped his claws, the fight in the elevator and Civil War.
That you never forget.
And you go, hell yeah, that's what we're here for. That's how you see it in your head. That's how it works. Yep.
I go back. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say I go back. Besides the movie stuff, I just picked up 2 copies of John Byrne's Alpha Flight this past weekend. I read them in the office, with with glee, man. 60 cents on the cover, and I picked them up for $1 at a secondhand shop. I felt like a kid again.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
All right, guys.
All those early Alpha Flights, the Teen Titans that Wolfman and Perez did, and the Austin Byrne X-Men, all during that period there, classic superhero stuff.
Yep.
You don't get better.
Yeah, for me it was Daredevil jumping on the rope and sending Bullseye to his back-breaking descent. His back-breaking fall. That was always my favorite scene. It was like Daredevil was like, whoop, it's like, can you do this? And then, and then Bullseye, like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, oh really? And he lets him go.
My favorite Daredevil fight was when he was fighting Chameleon, and Chameleon was pissed because for some reason or other Daredevil kept figuring out who he was. Because he was listening to his heartbeat and honing in on it and just mopping the floor with him. So hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. All right. So guys, we're at the end. So please, we'll start with Mr. Marcus. Please let everybody know where they can find you and your work.
Well, as I said, I'm COO of Second Sight Publishing, so you can hit up secondsightpublishing.com and find out the awesome list of titles that we have out. My books will be there on the website probably later on in the year. I'm in the process of moving from Advent Comics, which I enjoyed being over there with Tony Cottrell. They did me right. They promoted my stuff, but I'm going to be moving over to the place where I actually work at, Second Sight. So, and then you can always find, since everybody else threw a magazine cover up there, go to your local comic book store and check out Mississippi Zombie, published by Caliber Entertainment from Second Sight Publishing, Zombie Outbreak in Mississippi. issue 2, we have like besides myself, Jonathan Hedrick, Travis Gibb, Alfred Page. I mean, the book is loaded. So yeah, check us out.
Cool. Evan?
Alfred Page. That sounds familiar. No, just
Heard
kidding.
that name.
Yeah, right? Evan, where can we find you and your work? I'm distracted by your cat now.
You can find me on Twitter, but more importantly, you can find my work on Instagram and Facebook. Just a quick plug. We've got a few Johnny Phantasm action figures remaining on Indiegogo. They are very cool, and the packaging art is awesome. We got Johnny Phantasm Extreme 93 coming out soon. So if you're sort of a Liefeld type of young blood fan, check it out. And then this is very cool. I've got a little story in Brian Silverback's Kara Prime anthology Kickstarter that's coming out in April, and it's drawn by Stefano Cartacelli, who actually was just nominated for a Bram Stoker Award, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I've got Silence coming out in previews in September through Second Sight. If you love Twilight Zone, if you love X-Files, if you love horror with sneak up on you surprises, I think you'll enjoy it.
All right, cool. Mr. Rosario, where can they find you and your work?
All right, so you can find me on Instagram, Jay the Unstoppable Comics, on Facebook, JD Rosario, Unstoppable Comics on Facebook. But then if you want, you can pick up some of our books on Motherfucker. I turned my head. You see, now you know why I want to fly and shit on people.
It's Pigeon Man.
There you go. Captain Pigeon.
So anyways, look, you can pick them up. Woo! You can pick them up. Any of the books, definitely at unstoppablecomics.com.
All right, nice. Mr. DeSantis, where can they find you and your work?
Well, you can find, me and Darkfire Press separately on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But the easiest way to do that, to either follow me or them or get any of the books, is either to go to my website, jmdesantis.com. All the links are in the sidebar, or darkfirepress.com. You'll get all the links in the sidebar there. Plus, you got on Darkfire Press all my books, all the books for the other creators I publish. Everybody's got a creator page. You can follow them too. Just, spend a little time there, shop around. Yeah.
Right.
Almost made it.
You almost
We heard the majority of that. You got it all in, so you're good.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
So it's darkfirepress.com?
Darkfire. Oh, why? It can't cut out there?
Yeah,
that's where I was saying, darkfirepress.com. And everyone who I publish their books are there too. You can spend a little time, shop around. Everybody's got a creator page. You can follow them too. Darkfire Press is probably the best place to go for it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Randy?
Yeah.
You can find me on Facebook under Randy Zimmerman. You can find me on Twitter under Randy Zim. I don't twit very often, but when I do, it says Randy Zim with 2 M's. I am on the Indie Volt Radio Network Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. for the Livewire broadcast, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. All these times are Eastern for the Breakfast Buzz. And then I spearhead a show called the Sunday Funnies, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, where we try to talk about the more lighthearted and whimsical and fun side of comics. There at the Sunday Funnies at 9 a.m. You can find me also. You can look for Arrow Comics 4.0 on Facebook. We just created a page there where we'll be doing all of our product announcements from the Facebook page and also from arrowcomics.com that we are currently constructing. We have a small memorial up there right now for Ralph Griffith, who passed away a month or so ago, and the only other thing we have up there is a history of the Arrow Comics up until the start of the 3.0 version back in the 90s. And we'll be adding to that history, hopefully gloriously, towards the back part of this year, where we have a lot of products planned and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Nice. Nice. Well, you can find me at on Facebook under JD Calderon, under Twitter under JD Calderon, on DeviantArt under JD Calderon, and also under the Oswald Chronicles. You can find me at theoswaldchronicles.com and talltalesonline.com, and go check out the Oswald Chronicles currently on Kickstarter. So you can find out the links below. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, and I will be interviewing Brian J. Lambert tomorrow. So that'll be cool. So thank you so much, guys. And, I'll be talking to all of you again, hopefully.
Thanks for having us on.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
Yeah.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care,
All right.
everyone. Stay healthy.